All right, welcome to Hannity on this busy Friday night. That's right, 118 days, Americans trapped, abandoned by Joe Biden in the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. And yes, your spineless, feckless, cognitively weak president has forgotten the people that he promised to protect. We will not forget them on this show until they're all home safely. He might have turned the page. The mob and the media, well, they've turned the page too. Same with big tech. We won't. Now, sadly, tonight, another crisis is spiraling out of control right here. Now, breaking earlier today, shocking new economic numbers that prove that Biden and Kamala Harris and Schumer and every Democrat and Pelosi have all been lying to you. First, we start with this. Inflation is now at a 39-year high, the worst number in 4 decades, since 1982. Look at this headline from CNBC. Quote, inflation surged 6.8% in November, even more than expected, the fastest rate since 1982. Price of gas up 58%, but you already know that. The price of food is up dramatically. The price of everything we buy in every store we go to is up dramatically. Now, make no mistake. This is a tax, and this is disproportionately negatively impacting low and middle-income Americans, the people that can least afford this. Now, no doubt they're feeling a lot of pain right now. Now, it is a tax on retired Americans living on a fixed income. It is a tax on, quote, working men and women. In other words, the people that make this country great, that Joe claims to relate to so much and has so much compassion for, monopoly of compassion for. Now, there's no mystery why this is happening. All of this was preventable, and all of it is reversible, but you'd have to go back to the Trump policies that were working. Joe and the radical climate cult Democrats in Congress have been printing money at a record pace. They've been on a $2 trillion spending bill. They had in March another $1 trillion infrastructure bill in November. Now, they started out, they wanted $3.5 trillion. Now they're attempting to spend what will ultimately be, when you use real accounting numbers, up to $5.1 trillion on Biden's socialist Build Back Better bill. Look at this. Now, Democrats always say that the Congressional Budget Office is the gold standard in terms of numbers that you get. Well, the Congressional Budget Office, they did an analysis of Build Back Better New Green Deal socialism. This one bill alone could add $3 trillion plus to the deficit. They're saying it costs $1.75 trillion. It's not. It's costing $5.1 trillion when you include, by the way, that something called interest. Senator Lindsey Graham rightly pointed out this would now send inflation even further through the roof. It will wreck our economy even more. Watch.
If you believe these programs go away after 1, 2, or 3 years, you shouldn't have a driver's license. I am urging the Democratic Party to stop the madness, stop Build Back Better, because Build Back Better is going to be a death blow to our economy. 6.8%. Inflation is the enemy of working people in America. Build Back Better aids and abets the enemy of inflation, will drive that number up higher.
Now, thankfully, Lindsey Graham, who is the ranking member on the Senate Budget Committee, thankfully he demanded real numbers, because the Democrats have been lying the whole time. They've been using these accounting tricks to say, oh, it's not going to cost a penny. We'll get to that in a minute. But in the last few weeks, Biden and many other Democrats, they said that over and over and over and over again, it's going to cost you nothing. Let me remind you. Take a look.
The President still believes that Build Back Better will not add a dime to the national debt?
Correct, it won't.
Why should Americans believe that?
Because it won't.
All this is paid for by raising taxes on big corporations and the very wealthy. We're not trying to punish anybody, but I'm insisting that they pay their fair share. It's fiscally responsible and it's paid for. These plans are fiscally responsible. They are fully paid for. They don't add a single penny to the deficit.
And Build Back Better is not going to cost anything. We're paying for it.
No, $3 trillion in new debt. So you were lying. The Democrats were lying. Kamala was lying. Joe was lying. Jen Psaki was lying. Schumer was lying. Pelosi was lying. All the Democrats were lying because they were using accounting gimmicks to sell this lie to you, the American people. Now, of course, by the way, recently we had Jen Psaki had a very different explanation. She circled back with and said the CBO isn't very experienced at scoring these kinds of socialist spending sprees. But let's go to Joe Biden in 2010. He actually called the Congressional Budget Office that scored it at $4.9 trillion, not $1.75 trillion. If you include interest, it's $5.1 trillion. He called the CBO the gold standard of scoring legislation. He wasn't the only Democrat that praised the CBO as the gold standard. Take a look.
And the estimates for the CBO, which is really, the gold standard, no Republican or Democrat questions this.
Some of them are trying to pin a rose on this report and make it sound like it's a good thing, and the others of them are trying to discredit the CBO. But it's completely wrong.
Before we enact major legislation, we should know the truth. CBO speaks the truth. They've been speaking the truth for decades. And to try to attack CBO is simply attacking the messenger.
The CBO nonpartisan, fact-based score shows what a horror show this Republican plan is.
We're going to be stopping it cold, and certainly the CBO information gives us a big boost.
Don't take my word for it. Take their word for it. The gold standard. Now, tonight there is one Democrat who trusts the CBO, citing inflation concerns. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin demanded the complete CBO scoring of Build Back Better with no accounting gimmicks, no so-called sunset clauses, all the budgetary tricks that Democrats were using to sell it. Well, Joe Manchin, you got the score. $3 trillion added to the deficit and debt, and with inflation already spiraling out of control, it's not $1.75 trillion, it's $5.1 trillion. So, Joe, there's your off-ramp. Time to walk away from this socialist spending spree and stand up for the people of West Virginia that are getting killed by the climate cult, New Green Deal socialist in the House and in your party. Rising prices are deeply impacting the people of West Virginia. This is, by the way, this goes right to the core of West Virginia's economy, energy. This bill will make everything much worse. Joe Manchin, well, what more do you need to see? It's time to kill the bill.